With top WWE talent against a CM Punk return and more, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Bringing up what was set to take place for Sammy Guevara at AEW All In, Chris Jericho said this on his podcast. "I wanted Sammy out there with me to continue our storyline. I also wanted him to be able to feel that. I know he wanted to wrestle, and there was at one point an idea to do Daniel Garcia versus Sammy, but we just, can't do everything on the show. I wanted him to be able to feel it, and when he was out there after Judas, this is great, man. This is great. You can see him kind of jumping up and down, so he feels it, right? He wants to be on the show next year, but now he knows what it feels like to just be in that atmosphere and around that mass of humanity. So I have no doubt that Sammy will be on the show next year for sure." Asked how he wrestled with injuries, the Nature Boy Ric Flair told Everyone Talks to Liz Clamon, "You just went through it. I worked with a torn rotator cuff for over a year. Actually, I tore both shoulders. Finally, I got to the point where I couldn't take the pain anymore. Then I had one shoulder operated on and waited 4 years later to have the other shoulder operated on." When asked if Flair sustained the injuries by lifting wrestlers over his head, the Nature Boy detailed the two spots that led to his shoulders getting hurt. "One of them was when Randy Savage jumped off a top rope and by accident hit my rotator cuff. The other one was, I can't remember. It was nobody's fault. It was just wear and tear." Giving an update on Bobby Roode producing for WWE, Steve Carrier of Ringside News noted Bobby Roode is moving up backstage in WWE, but we have been told that he's not a full-time producer just yet. We were told that Roode is still just learning the ropes of producing. That being said, producing a match solo for Main Event was making his way up to a full-time job, so he's on the right track. Mentioning the previous possibility of the late Bray Wyatt having another faction in WWE, one half of the Righteous, Dutch, said on Developmentally Speaking, "I don't know if we'll ever know, but definitely seemed like it was leading in that direction. I think it would have been great. We were down in NXT for a week or so back in December. Yeah, the ball seemed to be rolling at the time. It kind of just got stopped for whatever reason. Maybe it was the illness that he had, whatever, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if we'll ever know, but it was definitely a possibility. Oh yeah, we talked a lot about having ideas and stuff like that. Never came to fruition, but the ideas and stuff, it was being thrown around. I don't think that I would be in the position that I am now with AEW if it wasn't for him. We created that buzz on social media for X amount of months, and whether it happened or not, everything happens for a reason, so I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him right now." For a legal update on Teddy Hart, Ringside News wrote that, as we previously reported in July, Teddy Hart was arrested on multiple drug charges. Now he is finally set to see his day in court on the matter. According to PW Insider, Teddy Hart is set for court later this month. He only has a couple of weeks left before that day approaches, as he's been waiting since July 15th to get this over with. Teddy Hart is scheduled for a court hearing on September 21st in Titusville, Florida, in connection with his arrest on July 15th. The charges he faces include possession of MDMA, ecstasy, and possession of a controlled substance without a prescription, both classified as third-degree felonies in Florida. The court date in September is designated as a mandatory appearance for early resolution. This division in Florida handles the offering of plea deals to individuals who have been arrested with the aim of preventing them from proceeding to a felony trial. It's possible that the matter will be resolved during this hearing. An August hearing, originally scheduled, did not take place, and there is no information available regarding the reason for its cancellation. Touching on the idea of CM Punk making a return to WWE following his departure from AEW, Eric Bischoff noted on his 83 Weeks podcast, it could be good. Look, again, this falls in the category of fantasy booking, but let's just entertain ourselves for a minute. What if WWE, for whatever reason, Paul Levesque decided, you know what, I'm gonna bring him in and give it a shot. Historically, WWE's done that type of thing, you just covered it. But also, Punk is not going to bully his way around a WWE locker room. He'll find himself stuffed in a garbage can that won't be tolerated, and he knows that. It's one thing to get physical and call out Jungle Jack Perry. It's quite another thing to try and throw your weight around in a WWE locker room. It's not the same thing, and I think Punk, I don't know him at all, but Punk would also know that this is like a big opportunity and probably my last shot, so he'd probably go in with a much different attitude than he had in AEW. The question is whether or not they need him, and it's worth the risk to them. On that same podcast, Eric Bischoff said this about CM Punk being fired by AEW. I think it would have been better in the long run had Tony made this same decision months ago when Punk had his meltdown at the press conference and made Tony look like a complete buffoon in the process. I would have pulled the trigger then had it been me, but it wasn't me, and I wasn't familiar with all of the circumstances, all of the issues. There's a lot of things I didn't know and still don't know. Going back to the idea of CM Punk joining WWE again, Senior VP of Live Events for WWE, Roode responded to this on his podcast. I'm the wrong guy to ask. That is the truth, because I cannot hire nor fire. That is out of sight of my pay grade. I did mention recently that he would move the needle by returning to WWE, but truth be told, that comment was made a long time ago, or whenever that was. It just doesn't seem like the right time to even talk about it. You know, things are happening in real time. God only knows what's going to come out at the end of this. Recalling his conversation with CM Punk prior to his firing from AEW, Chris Jericho said on his podcast, I don't want to dwell on this or talk about, but I should address it. CM Punk no longer with AEW. Wembley was his last match, which what a way to go out if you're going to go out. I did speak to him briefly. I was going to do a Frankensteiner off the top, and I know that he does that sometimes, so I was curious if he was going to do it. I went and talked to him for a bit, asked if he was going to do it. He wasn't. I told him I was going to do the GTS with a straight face, and I think for a second he thought that I was going to. I was joking, of course. I did see him that day. It's a regretful moment what happened, but Tony Khan made his decision. CM Punk was a big part of AEW from the time he was there, and if you're going to go out, he went out on top by having this big match with Samoa Joe in a sold-out stadium. That's my thoughts on that. It seems that a promotion has interest in CM Punk being brought in, as PW Insider reported. Among other promotions, we have heard that Impact Wrestling was super excited about the idea of Punk potentially working there, but I don't know that realistically that would be a long-term option. Speaking about defending the NWA World's Heavyweight title against CM Punk, EC3 told the WrestleBinge podcast, obviously CM Punk, Chicago ties with Billy Corgan, so that would be a fantastic challenger. There's a lot of speculation and roundabout talking about the dealings with him and his previous employer, whatever. What I do think about him is that he is dynamite in the ring and dynamite on the microphone. We can definitely draw a lot of intrigue, and I'd be into it. Throwing that out there, to have him come in would be a game changer. Our locker room has a more professional atmosphere sometimes, so I don't think the shenanigans and tomfoolery of the intertwining and dramatics would take place as much as people striving to be the best version of themselves, and the best version of anybody is EC3 as the world's heavyweight champion. Sticking with the NWA champ, EC3 said this about going up against Goldberg, telling WrestleBinge, I would love to see Big Bill challenge me. I would love to see him come to the ring wearing the black and white gear he had with the WWF run. I would love to see him throw some air punches and one giant crescent kick. I would like to move out of the way of a spear and then hit him with my finisher and defeat him. Speaking about what could be next for Jack Perry in AEW following his physical confrontation with CM Punk, Booker T claimed on his Hall of Fame podcast, this could be a death blow to Jack Perry's career. That out of sight, out of mind, and then when he comes back, how much have they really missed him? His worth is going to be immediately put right out there on Front Street. Speaking of Jack Perry, Eric Bischoff said this about him on his 83 Weeks podcast. Just cut Perry loose. First of all, you're talking about a thimble full of talent to begin with. He's really only there because his dad, Luke Perry, was a soap opera star. That's it. Otherwise, he's making $200 a night on the indie circuit somewhere. This guy is not a star. He'll never be a star. By virtue of the fact that he thinks using real glass is going to get him heat, it should tell you everything you need to know about his potential. He doesn't understand the very fundamentals of the business. When it comes to how WWE stars feel about a CM Punk WWE comeback, it was reported that PWInsiderElite.com can confirm that within minutes of the announcement that Punk was terminated with cause by AEW President Tony Khan, he was an immediate topic of discussion within WWE, especially top talents. There were some who were adamantly against the idea and didn't believe it could happen, but others who looked at it as a chance to make big money. We know of one top-tier star who was all for it, but it wouldn't be their call. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.